Coming up, we are not alone. Join us as we dissect Steven Spielberg's new movie, Disclosure Day. Stay tuned. Welcome to The Morgue, where we dissect the latest and the greatest in the world of entertainment. We are your host, Arturo Padilla, along with Mr. Nick Valdez. Tex, how you doing today, buddy? What's up?
Howdy, everybody. Howdy, Arturo. So, full disclosure, I love Disclosure Day. We're going to get into the here and why here in a bit, but just as just jumping off point, it's Senior Spielbergo. Steven Spielberg's back to direct his first sci-fi film in, man, quite a long time. I believe his last directed film was The Fabelmans, which I still haven't seen. I'll just say that too. Full disclosure here, I have not seen The Fabelmans. It was just not in my ballpark.
Yeah, it's not my kind of movie either, honestly.
Yeah, and kudos to him. Made a biopic about his past and all that. Good show, but like Disclosure Day is the kind of meat and potatoes that I was kind of looking for. You have a sci-fi film. It's really been kind of in the promotional materials. They've been kind of hiding it. All you knew from the promotional materials was that it's about aliens and they're disclosing aliens to the world. And Emily Blunt's caught up in it. You have Josh O'Connor caught in it, who was last seen in movies like where I saw him in Knives Out most recently. He was good there, but like this is, and he was Challengers, I believe he was also in, but like, and of course Emily Blunt in like Devil Wears Prada 2, all sorts of great stuff here and there. But it's a lot more complicated right from the get-go. A lot more than that. There's a lot of cool sci-fi ideas going on, but also we're going to get into the why some of it may not work. And I think, Arturo, not to spoil your reaction, but I think you might know where I'm going with this. How do you feel about Disclosure Day?
Disclosure Day was good, but it wasn't the Spielberg movie I had in mind. Right. I definitely enjoyed the ride. I wish the ride had a lot more to give, honestly. It felt a little one note at times because of just the same actions kind of going on over and over again. And it's like a really long chase movie. I did like the third act a lot, actually. I liked when that all went down. When it got down to the actual sci-fi stuff, I was in. I was on board, but there's a lot of time in between, not spent really diving into those concepts, diving into the sci-fi of it all, Tex. And it is a long movie. It's 2 hours and 25 minutes. Yes. And one thing I do have to say, that the movie is very well paced. So that time kind of just flies through. But this is exactly why I wanted some more, because I was invested in this movie and there was so much time to give in this movie. I wanted Spielberg to give more of the sci-fi stuff. I think that's where I'm standing with this movie, is that it does the sci-fi well, but I needed some more of that to really keep me completely locked into this thing, Tex. How about we start with you and how you just feel about the first hour or so of this movie? There's so much to really dig into that we can just start like that, honestly.
Yeah, because it's also tough to get into too much about spoilers about the second half. Yeah, because I do think going in blind is part of what's going to make it a better experience overall. I think Disclosure Day, and this is why, there are aliens in this, and this is why, like, in their trailers, like, of course they can't hide the fact that it's a movie about aliens, right? But then they never show them. And when you finally get to the stuff in the movie, and when you get the actual disclosure, that's, like Arturo said, this is when it all pays off. But it's also something that it asks a lot of you in that first half. And this is what Arturo was also alluding to, in that, like, when it gets to like the actual core of the action, where you get to the chase scenes, where you get to the fact that, you have Josh O'Connor and Emily Blunt on the run from this shadowy government organization, there's a lot of good Spielberg vibe in that. It's very ET kind of like the government's always kind of like chasing after their, and they're one step behind them at every point, and they're always basically on top of them. And in that kind of sense, like, to have a really competent bad guy is also part of what makes the movie so good in
Yeah.
terms of like its pacing, because for as much as it kind of stumbles a bit with some of the character introductions and how much it spends time, which we can get into here in a bit, I do like that there is a rhythm through it all, because
Yeah.
you have such competent bad guys who are so good at their jobs that, like, it's literally like every little slip up keeps them on the toes, and it's kind of that thing that keeps the pace going. And otherwise, like, there's not a, like, no one's shooting guns or anything like that. And when there are guns firing, it's like a gun. It's very kind of toned down in that way of like, if you do kind of have to leave. It's the Spielberg effect of like, although he didn't write the script, it's one of those things of like, you kind of have to accept that this is a different view of the world, right?
Yeah, he didn't write the script, but he did write the story, though. That said, we have seen a lot more action, a lot more sci-fi action from Spielberg in the past.
Yes.
I point to Minority Report, where it's a movie that does keep the action up at all times. And this one, it's trying to build up to the action because it
Yes.
has to give us background, because we ourselves are, along with the protagonist, especially with Emily Blunt's character, we are like, also, what the hell's going on? We
Right.
are discovering everything as she is also discovering things, which I think is a good move. And there's not really a lot of action you can put in those parts, especially when you're building this exposition and when you need to actually do this in order for us to make sure we follow along with things, because there are a lot of details that need to connect in this grand web of Disclosure Day. And as we get exposed to the characters a little more, we do get more and more of the story unfolding. And I think that's the awesomeness of Spielberg, that he is able
Yes.
to build this grandiose world, this concept that
Yeah.
is like literally larger than life, and make it very accessible, right, Tex?
Yeah, like, shout outs to, like, when you look at the idea on paper, right? You look at, the idea of Emily Blunt and Josh O'Connor's characters, that even kind of going into what they are is kind of also kind of ruining the flow of the film. And
Right.
that's where I will give it credit, in that, like, this is a movie that it's best if you don't know too much, which is why we're kind of dancing around it. But it's in the fact that they're just kind of learning, and they're just kind of
Yes.
figuring stuff out, yet it still feels like there's momentum given, right? Like, it still feels like, on paper, it's just two people learning about their connection to outer space and to
Mhm.
aliens, right? And to figure out what that means for the rest of the world, and what is the full disclosure that you kind of get teased about in the promos and stuff. And when you get to the buildup and you get to all that, it feels like it's summer blockbustery. You kind of,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
kind of understand why it's dropped in the middle of June here, of like, because it's a sci-fi movie with like Steven Spielberg, and you're kind of like, oh, I could see like a November release or something for this, because but
It definitely,
no.
yeah, it definitely feels award season release, right?
Yeah, like, yes, like a bigger play, right? But
Yeah.
no, like, sitting here in June, it's paced like a summer blockbuster, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's dope. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, and this is why they do have Disclosure Day popcorn buckets and soda cups,
Yes.
because it is that kind of movie. And Tex is right, even though I didn't fully engage until the very end, there is a Spielberg about it that you can't really, like, hide at all.
No.
It's simply the fact of, as we said, learning about these characters as they learn about themselves, right? And then this chase that I was talking about, it's like a never-ending chase. And Colin Firth does a very awesome job as the bad guy here, because he doesn't get outsmarted. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He has the tools to find out exactly where you
Yes.
are.
He's
And honestly,
he's been
that's,
on top of it. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
that's awesome sci-fi stuff, how he discovers how things are. I don't want to get too into it, because it is really cool when he does, when you as the audience finally realize what he is doing with that, because in the trailer does also a very good job of not showing you exactly what the deal is, because it looks like he's an alien in the trailer, and he's not.
Yes.
Just
Yes.
putting it out there, he's not an alien. He's he's the head of this company called Wardex, and they're this I don't even know how to describe them, if they actually work
they're
for the
just
government or not. But
yeah, they're like this secret government contractor or something.
yeah,
They're not even the
exactly. Yeah.
government. They like that's also a plot point in the beginning to make sure Spielberg as the director is like, no, they're not government. And
Yeah, they're not
it's one of
government.
those things too to kind of
It's
protect
like, no, no, I'm
themselves.
staying away from that area. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, I really like the fact that, like you mentioned, Tex, we have a villain here who's super competent, who's on top of his game, who doesn't back down.
Yeah.
He has a mission. He's like, I need to find this guy and this woman, and I need to find them right now. And he puts all of the assets that he has available to him to find these people. And I really like the fact that it is always a constant chase. So that does keep you engaged in the movie while they are trying to explore themselves. There's always, oh my God, the next step and the next step. And are
Yeah.
we hiding here? No, you got exposed. You got to keep running. You got to keep running. But there does come a point where I do feel like the chase needed to be a little bit more action packed. We
Right.
do get a nice train sequence. It's in the trailer too, so there's no spoilers there. That's it. In terms of like big action set pieces, that train sequence that you'll see in the trailer is kind of it, aside from, some car chases here and there. But that's why I feel like I wanted some more, especially
Yeah.
when it came to the government spook action and
Yeah.
even the sci-fi action.
Yeah, because it was kind of I don't even want to say 80s, but it felt kind of old school in that way of like when the bad guys caught up to him, it never really felt like there was, there are stakes, but it's like, you know, they never really felt like truly in danger. I think
Yeah,
that's the
because they
thing
needed him
too.
alive on top of that too.
Yeah, and so that also meant that every time they caught on to him, it never really felt like they were on to him. And so it just felt like they were always active. And that's what kept it going, because at the same time, you also have characters like Coleman Domingo's character, Hugo, where he's kind of also building his end of that kind of thing. So but he's also kind of being mysterious about stuff like on
Yeah.
purpose.
Yeah.
And it does get a little annoying a little bit. It does. Like there's a thing of like, I get mysteries, I get all of that, but it's also kind of like there's a time and like you just gotta say stuff. You just gotta say what you're doing, right? And there's a lot of like he's the character with a lot of I'll explain it to you when you get to point B.
It's
When
like,
you
oh, you'll
when you
know, like if you find this, you'll know exactly what's going on.
Yes, and it's like, all right, dude, we get it. And there are some kind of kooky things like that don't really work. I think you'll agree, Arturo, with like when Emily Blunt, she's first introduced, her character is like an anchor woman, or she's in Weathered, she's trying to be an anchor woman and she's trying to figure out her place in life, and she's dating Wyatt Russell, and they kind of have a dynamic. And Wyatt Russell, shout outs to him, he's good, can't wait to see him as an Avenger. But in this, he's the guy, the guy in every like thriller
Yeah.
movie of like, oh, I don't believe you, girlfriend who I love, and it's
Like, you need
oh
to go back to the hospital right now. You're not well.
yes, he's like, girlfriend who I love, you're acting crazy right now. I don't know, I don't believe you, even though and it's that trope of like the guy who doesn't believe her, and that always gets super annoying every time it's in
Yeah.
any movie. It's like you understand why it's a trope, right? Like it's like, yes, you get that you need it in movie because it's an easy conflict, but then like so much time is spent on that, more than you would hope, that
Yeah,
like
and that's a little bit of what actually bogs down that first act going into the second act, because
yes,
Emily Blunt discovers that she knows a bunch of stuff, right? And she's on the road and she needs to find Daniel, the other character, and there's a lot of interaction with her and her boyfriend, and the boyfriend is just not being cooperative at all. He's a big hindrance. You can see that he's hesitant to play along with whatever she's saying, and it doesn't work out that well, because at the end of the day he doesn't really matter, unfortunately. And it's so we spend a lot of time with these characters together and it doesn't really add up to anything. So that's a big hit and miss for me, especially because we could have been with Daniel and his girlfriend, right? and
yeah,
and where that was the more interesting story and the more interesting human exposition. It's like, these two are a pair, but they have secrets. They find out early on that, hey, she has this secret and he has this secret, but his secret's way bigger, and he's not letting on. And she's involved in this whole situation just because she knows him. Like right off the bat, like we see that this government agency, Wardex, that they have kidnapped her at some point in the movie, and they are trying to do an exchange for the information that Daniel has early on. And you see off the bat the kind of relationship that he has with her and how important he actually is to this whole mystery. Because, as I said earlier, the action kind of slows down a bit because, as Tech said, there is no real consequence because this guy is needed alive. It's not like,
Yeah.
they're trying to bag and tag him. No, he's needed alive. He's needed with all the information that he has. And the movie actually explains why he's so important later on,
Yeah.
which is a cool reveal.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think why we're being so dodgy about spoilers and everything is the fact that like that mystery is so important to the pacing.
Yeah.
Right. It's
Yes.
also like I'm so like looking back on this now, I'm so curious to see if it holds up through another watch, right? Because what keeps you so involved is the fact that that mystery is it's well put together. It's super interesting, and it's like, and the more the characters find out about it, the more you find out, and the more
Yeah.
you're interested in it. But then because that mystery is so interesting, you're willing to, kind of overlook the fact that like they're obviously going to make it through every time they're caught by the bad guys. And so, when the final one comes around, and it happens, you're like, oh, okay, it's not really like Arturo said, it's not as explosive of a climax you kind of want for like a final confrontation with the bad guys in a sci-fi thriller. But then the real climax comes around, and I think the most we can say without full disclosure, and once again, I'm gonna give it full credit for the fact that I feel like for your experience at home, buddies, and for those listening and those watching on YouTube and checking this out, the full experience is not knowing what that full disclosure truly encompasses, right? Because
yes,
when it's finally revealed, it does feel like, oh, this is what the movie has been doing. This is why it's been paced so well in the mystery. This is like, you're like, oh, I can forgive the lack of true action because of that final reveal. And also on the other side of that too, on the other side of that coin, Arturo, I think if you're not feeling the mystery, I don't know how effective that reveal is.
Oh, that's a great point. That's a great point, because even I wasn't fully in on this movie, but I was in on the mystery. Like I wanted to see more of the sci-fi stuff. Give me more of whatever this guy is hiding. What secrets like did he steal? I want to know everything. And that's what kind of kept me going, because I wanted to see more. I wanted to see more of the mysteries, more of these secrets that were stolen. What was so like, what were they hiding that was so crazy that's causing them to kind of chase these people down across America pretty much? And it hits like Act 3, top notch, really good Spielberg stuff. Really good emotional beats hit in that Act 3. And depending on how you feel about extraterrestrials or not, it'll hit different, for some people. But like even myself, who's a sci-fi nerd and is into the astronomy of it all, and the stargazing stuff, like there has been little proof of life out there, but just watching this movie, you kind of get back into that, like, oh my God, but maybe,
it puts the fun behind Aliens.
Yes,
right?
absolutely. Like it's definitely that Spielberg, like catering to like an inner child. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it really does feel nostalgic in that way when you look at the scope and you look at the scope of the reveal and how it's done, that it still feels like modern day. And like when you get the actual stuff, it's not exactly what you think either. And the critical thing about it is that like it, once again, it makes Aliens interesting because we're in an era where like you could probably they've said, like, it's like, I think they've actually said, yeah, we've got UFOs out there and all that stuff, but it's like it's such on the pile of everything else going on, right? That like that's in the movie a little bit actually. There is a little bit of that commentary of like there's so much stuff going on, but
Yeah, because
remember,
as
yeah,
well, in the movie, they're like talking about a World War III almost starting or something like that. There's a huge like
yeah,
international conflict going on in the background of this sci-fi story. And then you have this sci-fi stuff going on, and it's when that third act comes, it really does make that much of a difference, not knowing like anything going into this movie, honestly, like
yeah,
technically.
yeah, because they're the way it's rolled out, yeah, like to even describe it, I feel like, but I think it really puts you in that emotional state of like, and I was kind of teary eyed. Like I can't lie. Like it was the Spielberg effect. Like I know it's like film buff going on 101
It's
over
the
here.
wonder of it all, right?
Yeah, it's like this is a dude who made a summer blockbuster that's like, man, you know, you're like, this is really hitting right now. And you know it's not perfect, that's the thing too, like, and I think Arturo will agree. I think when the movie ends, it's also one of those come on kind of endings.
Yeah, it's, especially, like, after I re-engaged in the movie because it got me back into it, and then you throw that ending on there, and I'm like, "What did you
Yeah,
do to me just now?" Like,
yeah, it's a
stop,
real,
Spielberg, stop.
yeah, it's a real 1-2 punch kind of thing of like you're feeling so into it, you know, it ends and you're just kind of like, it's such like a 1-2 punch of like, this is the last thing that you'll take from the movie, and instead of like, you know, instead of disclosure, right?
But it's
Instead
but
of
it's
what,
crazy too because you're like, "Oh my god," and then,
yeah,
credits.
yes, yes, yes. It's really, yeah, it really hits. And on that note, Arturo, here's how we do things at the morgue, everybody. We have our scale of pay for it, which is go check out immediately, check it out at your earliest convenience. It's that good. There's wait for it, which is it's good, but you don't need to immediately see it. You're not missing out much. It's a better experience at home. Then there's stay away from it, which is just stay away from it. You don't need to see it. You're not gonna hurt, and like you're not gonna help anything here. You're just
Yeah.
gonna hurt yourself when you're watching it. Stay away from it. But so I'll start us off on a pay for it, wait for it, stay away from it. I am going to say like pay for it. Like I'm gonna say it's about an 8. I think like out of 8 out of 10. I think, you know, it's not perfect. And the more we talk about it here, the more I'm like also kind of in that 7 range of like, oh, you know, but I'm thinking about me sitting in that theater and me being with the experience at the time. And I was really into it. And when it ended, I do remember that being that kind of shifted a bit of like, I kind of got like maybe got shortchanged on some element. But that third act is so cool, man. And if you're actually feeling the story, then you're going to really like that third act. And if you're not feeling the story, if you're bored, I don't know what to say, man. I think, yeah, you're gonna have a really tough time with this one. But what did say you, Arturo, about Disclosure Day? Pay for it, wait for it, or stay away from it?
I am gonna give it, right at that borderline of pay and wait, a 7 out of 10. It is a slow movie.
Yeah,
And not slow in pacing, just like it's a slow burn. I needed more action. I needed more stuff going on, more crazy chase scenes, just some more things to keep my brain engaged throughout the first hour and a half or so, because it is a 2.5 hour movie. And that first hour and a half does need some more oomph to it.
yeah,
All that said, third act was freaking awesome and made up for all that stuff, honestly. Like in that short amount of time that you get in the third act there, like in the final 15, 20 minutes, maybe you get all this stuff and you're like, holy crap, this is exactly what I'm
yeah,
here for.
yeah.
And
It's good
it
movie
leaves
making.
you,
Yeah,
yes, exactly. It leaves you on a high note, and then the ending comes. So it's I'm curious to see what you buddies at home think about the ending and what you thought about the entire movie, because it will definitely sway you in a certain way. And as Tex mentioned before, if you aren't really into this like that early on, it's just tap out early because there's a lot to go before you really hit that peak action that this movie promises. But again, Steven Spielberg did awesome, man. It's been a long time since I've enjoyed a Spielberg movie, and I think this one puts him right there again in the forefront of great filmmakers and great storytellers because he loves science fiction, this guy, and any
Yeah.
chance he gets to really flex those muscles, he's going to do it. And I'm glad he did it again. It's been a while since we've gotten that. And buddies at home, let us know in the comments below what your favorite Steven Spielberg movie is and what you thought about the ending of Disclosure Day. Thank you so much for listening. This is The Morgue, where we dissect the latest and greatest in the world of entertainment. We are your hosts, Arturo Padilla, along with Mr. Nick Valdez. A big shout out goes to you guys out there for listening and for watching. We have all these episodes up on our YouTube archive and anywhere you get your podcast streams. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Hit that bell up there. That way you know when all these videos are dropping. Leave us some reviews, some stars. We highly appreciate it over on Apple Podcasts. Big shout out goes to Delvirus for all the artwork you've seen in front of you throughout the years. And last but not least, buddies, especially now, it is a scary world out there, especially with Disclosure Day. But we are here to walk you through it.